This is Bev Herring on the Rich Thoughts webcast sponsored by the Debt Free Army. Today I want to bring you some really rich thoughts about slaying the giants in your life. Yesterday I spoke about positioning yourself to overcome circumstances by trying not to bring God down into your situation, but by raising up the expectation and thinking up where God is. If you weren't able to tune into that, I hope you'll go back and find it. But stay with me. I'll be right back after this. Fred Price, pastor of Ever Increasing Faith, wrote a book called Faith, Foolishness, and Presumption. And I think I have the perfect story that happened to me several years ago when I made a friend of a lady that lived down in the Air Force Base near our home. And she and I went to church together. And she was telling me how when she was in England, they had found this beautiful pieces of furniture, this real heavy oak. And she'd bought all of these things in this heavy oak and how gorgeous it was. But when they got ready to move from England over to an Air Force base in the States, the United States Air Force did not want to take and move all that heavy furniture across the pond, as they say, across the Atlantic. And she really had a hard time. She was telling me, boy, I prayed about it. God gave me a victory, and it was such a marvelous testimony. But it wasn't too much longer after that, maybe a month or two, when she came to me, she said, wow, guess what? I found the most beautiful oak living room suit, and we now own that. And I stopped and I said, now, Linda, I said, didn't you have trouble getting the Air Force to move you from one place to another? And she said, because of this furniture. And she said, oh, don't worry. If God did it before, he'll do it again. Now, the point I'm trying to make by all this is saying, there's such a thing as faith, and then there's such a thing as foolishness and presumption. Because God got you out of something one time doesn't mean that we want to invite that back into our lives again. If we want the giants out of our lives, we can't keep inviting them back into our lives. God wants to deliver us from the things that are facing us, but we need to learn from the situations we've already been in and progress. I want to avoid giants as much as the next person, but I also want to learn how to deal effectively with whatever comes into my life, and that is really what God is doing with us here on this earth. I need to remember and learn what I have learned in the past and how I've been able to rely on the promises of the Lord, and then he'll take me to the next level. And that's where I want to start with the children of Israel. They were slaves in Egypt. We know that. God brought them out by doing a series of miracles, mighty miracles, that showed his strength. He wanted them to see his ability, his strength to be able to pull them out and take them where they needed to go. He wanted them to trust him. He gave them the wealth of Egypt when they left out of Egypt. He then totally destroyed the Egyptian army by drowning them in the Red Sea. But they had experienced all of these things, and then they turned around and they couldn't find water in the wilderness, and they doubted that God had the ability to provide for them. The question is really this, and hey, before we start picking on them, we have to look at our own lives. When we don't see God move in the way that we think that he should, does this mean he isn't moving? And we have Deuteronomy 8 verse 2 in the King James Version. This is how he explains what he was doing with the children of Israel, and we need to learn from it. It said, and thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. The bottom line is this. Can we trust God? And if we say, yes, I believe in God, the point of it is do we really? We can't have that joy and that peace without really being able to zero in on the promises and know that when he said something, even though we're meeting difficult circumstances, that he will eventually come through for us. I love Romans 8:31. Says, if God is for us, who can be against us? The Amplified says, if if God is for us, who can be against us? Who can be our foe if God is on our side? You know, he did not even withhold his own son, but he gave him up for us. And with us, he will give us every other good thing. That's kind of the verse 32 kind of amplified version by me. You know, we need to know these things are real, but I'm going to be right back and I'm going to tell you a fantastic story right after this.
You know, there's all different kinds of money. There's hard-earned money, inherited money, stolen money, gambling money, and the list goes on and on. I'm Harold Herring, president of the Debt-Free Army, and I'm here to tell you about a very different kind of money, miracle money. I've discovered that God's miracle money is available not just to a select few, but to those who know how to reach out and receive it. I want to send you a free copy of a book that I helped develop and publish entitled Miracle Money. God told me to put this book into the lives of those who had the faith to pick up the phone and call 1-800-DEBT-FREE. If you're suffering economic hardship, if it seems you just can't make ends meet financially, then this may be the most important phone call you'll ever make. The book is free. The call is free. So why not pick up the phone right now and call 1-800-DEBT-FREE.
Learn about the miracle money God's holding for you. Call 1-800-DEBT-FREE.
Welcome back. You know, in 2 Chronicles chapter 14, there's a story of King Asa. He's really one of my favorites. I have several favorites, but he's one of them for sure. Because it says in verse 2, he did what was good and right before the Lord. Now, there comes a time, you know, this is what it says in verse 9. It says, there came out against Judah Zerah the Ethiopian with a host of 1,000,000. Now this is in the Amplified Version. And it says in parentheses, that is too many to be numbered. That's how many soldiers he was facing. And 300 chariots. And they came as far as Marishai. It says, then Asa cried out to the Lord, his God. Now I want you to listen to this prayer. O Lord, no one but you can help the powerless against the mighty. Help us, O Lord our God, for we trust in you alone. It is in your name that we have come against this vast horde. O Lord, you are our God, and do not let mere men prevail against you. Now, you know what? We've been bought with a price, haven't we? So, you know, the Lord has a vested interest in us. But it depends on whether we're trusting him and we are acting like we are his. You know, and that's where sometimes the rubber meets the road with us. But in verse 13, Asa put himself before the Lord. He said, you know what, Lord? I'm powerless before these people. You're the only one who can bring us out. How many times have you ever felt like you've been in that kind of a situation? Believe me, I kind of felt like that today. So I'm telling you, you know what? We have to look at the Word and we have to gain that strength from the Word. In verse 13 it says, Asa and the people with him pursued them to Gear, and the Ethiopians were overthrown. Now listen to what it says, so that none remained alive. Now, let me tell you, 1,000,000, or like it says, so many that they can't be counted, and there wasn't, none remained alive, for they were destroyed before the Lord and his host, who carried away much booty. Now, you know what? When we face giants, and we rely on the promises of the Lord. And I mean, no matter how frightened or, you know, scared it seems that we would get. And actually in here it says, I don't know if it was in this version because I've read several today, but you know, it said he was frightened. But then he came before the Lord and brought it before the Lord and said, Lord, this is yours. I'm yours. You know, I've been bought with a price. It's really what we can say to the Lord. And I need your help. Because we're going to always face giants, but the key is to realize this. God is not wringing his hands in heaven. I love the way Keith Moore says that, favorite pastor of mine. Wringing his hands in heaven saying, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen to you. He knows everything. He knows, you know, the beginning from the end from the beginning. He knows it all and he's aware. But what we have to do is remember the great things God's done, come to the Word and rely on the Word of God to take us through. He's all we have. I mean, we have lots of friends. We have a pastor. You know, we might have a husband, a wife. We might have people we really like to rely on. But you know, in the bottom of it all is that he's all we have. So you know what? We have to rely on him. We just have to trust him because he's the only one that can really bring us out. You know, I hope you'll visit our website, www.debtfreearmy.org. We have lots of wonderful tools. I pray that you will consider a contribution to our ministry. You know, we live off y'all's the contributions you give to us, but we love to give you rich thoughts. And you know, visit the website, come visit us on our Facebook page, come visit us through Twitter. We're wanting to reach the world with our message, and I hope that today you've enjoyed some of the rich thoughts that I've brought to you, and I'm going to see you again tomorrow.